Hello everyone, this is Jason from Primetime Aquatics. I am super excited to bring you a species profile on the green neon. It's a great fish. Let's go down in the fish room and take a closer look. This is the green neon. What we're looking at here is a 20-gallon long. It's got about a dozen green neons as well as some mystery snails and a betta. If you've been watching the channel for any length of time, you will know that this is Joanna's favorite fish. This is the one that she wanted, and for good reason. As we go through this video, you're going to see just how wonderful they are. What separates them from other types of neons is that more green color. If you were to compare these to a standard neon, you'd see, yes, that stripe across their body is a little bit more green, and they have a little bit less red. I've also found these fish, the green neons, to be a little bit more hardy than the standard neon, and they tend to be more tolerant of certain water parameters, even though they stay a little bit smaller. Now, these fish come from South America, and the waterways in the areas from which they come from, they tend to be a pretty warm. They have softer water with a lower pH. Now, in terms of size, you're looking at about an inch or so. By the way, if you are looking for these fish, check out Flip Aquatics at flipaquatics.com. I will put their information in the description below. Highly recommend if you're looking for nano fish or shrimp. That's the place to go. Again, their information is in the description below. Now, this is a very peaceful fish. That is one of the things I think that is so attractive about these fish, especially to a lot of new fish keepers, is you can put these fish in a tank and not have to worry too much about them bullying other types of fish. They're typically going to live around 2 to 3 years. If you're taking good care of them, you're taking good care of your tank. Certainly 2 or 3 years is an acceptable amount of time. In terms of tank mates, there are some options, and again, you can see here in this tank we do have mystery snails as well as a betta. Other types of fish that you would keep with your green neon, first I would keep these fish in a group, minimum of 6. I like to keep them in groups of at least 10 to 15. More is always better. This is a fish that likes to be around others of its kind. It doesn't do well when it's sitting in a tank by itself. You can also combine green neons with other types of neons, the standards, cardinal tetras, the black neons, ember tetras. By the way, we've done a lot of species profiles on fish that will do well with your green neons. If you check out the description below, you'll get more information on potential tank mates. But we like cherry barbs, danios do well. If you're looking for a single centerpiece type fish, some of the smaller gouramis can work, like sparkling gouramis, honey gouramis, dwarf gouramis. I would stay away from the larger gouramis just because they tend to be a little bit more aggressive. Most of your live bearers work just fine. That's your guppies, your endlers, your mollies, and your swordtails. If you want to look for something like a cichlid, stay on the smaller side because these fish stay small. You're looking at smaller cichlids, usually things like a pistogramma or rams, maybe some crebensis or some curviceps, but we do want to stay on the smaller side because these fish are going to be small, and any fish that can fit into another fish's mouth could wind up being dinner. If you're looking for a cleanup crew, certainly cory cats of all different kinds would work well. Otocinclus would do fine. Bristlenose plecos would work. Mystery snails. Adult shrimp will probably work okay. These fish may prey on some of the shrimplets if they have access to them. Bettas, it may work. You can see here we've got a betta in this tank. There have been no problems, but if the betta's got really long fins, you never know if the neons are going to start nipping at the betta, but we found the combination to work out okay. Regarding water parameters, the temperature is anywhere from around 75 to 82 or so. It works out pretty well. pH, usually slightly below neutral, is going to be best. Somewhere between 6 and 8. Our fish tanks are actually closer to a pH of 8, and we've found the green neons to tolerate that quite well. Water hardness, somewhere around 3 to 10 degrees. Again, we are on the harder side of the water hardness. If you were looking for ideal, you'd probably have a pH between around 6 and 7, and water hardness in the low single digits, somewhere around 2 to 4. The water quality does need to be good, so you don't want to have any ammonia or nitrites in the tank. You want a well-cycled tank. If you need to know more information about how to cycle a tank, check out the video in the upper right-hand corner as well as in the description below. That will help you figure out how to cycle a tank if you're newer to fish keeping. We feed our fish mostly north fin foods. So North Fin flakes. For the green neons, we try to crush it up a little bit just so that we have really big flakes in the tank. But the North Fin community flake, North Fin pellets are good. We also like to feed our fish a variety of frozen brine shrimp, frozen bloodworms. These fish, if you really want to see them go crazy, feed them some live baby brine. They absolutely love that. When it comes to the tank size, these fish are small. And so a lot of people put these fish in 10-gallon tanks. And while that can be sufficient, again, ideally you want to keep your green neons in larger groups. To accomplish that, often a 20-gallon works out better. Now this happens to be a 20-gallon long, but a standard 20-gallon works out just fine. And the reason for that, again, is you want to try to keep these fish in groups of 10 to 15 at least. Yes, you can keep them in a group of 6 in a 10-gallon, but it's probably not the ideal way to go. How do you decorate the tank? Well, you can see here what we've done. We've got some live plants and some rocks and some wood. That works out really well. You don't have to have live plants. If you have fake plants, that's fine. But they do like to have structure to swim around and to kind of feel safe. You can see at the top of the tank we have a lot of floating plants that can also help them feel secure as well. And so we generally like to decorate our tanks with live plants, rocks, and wood, as you can see here. Darker substrates, darker backgrounds are going to show off these fish in particular in a much nicer way. You can see that vibrant green stripe throughout the video. And again, with those darker backgrounds, it helps the fish feel more secure. They darken up a little bit and get a lot better color. Now, breeding these fish is not going to be an easy task. I often say if you're going to be interested in tetras, sometimes it's a lot cheaper and a lot easier to buy them than it is to breed them. So neon tetras, like most other tetras, are egg scatterers, which means you're going to have a group, possibly in a 20-gallon, and usually that involves a spawning mop, and the fish are going to lay the eggs in the spawning mop. And then you're going to remove that spawning mop and put it in a separate tank, usually a cycled 10-gallon tank. Usually within a few days, the eggs hatch, and then you're going to need really small fish food for the new fry. Something like infusoria, fry food, and then when they get large enough, usually after a week or two, you can start feeding them live baby brine. But to breed these fish, you really do have to dial in the water parameters. While they do just fine at a pH of 7 to 8, and they'll do okay with the water hardness at 7 to 10 degrees, in order to breed them, usually you have to bring that pH down. You have to bring the water hardness down, and usually the temps have to come up a little bit. So it's not necessarily a task for beginners. It's usually something that people do when they've gained some experience breeding fish in general. If you do see these fish at a pet store, I highly recommend them. It'll be a little bit different than keeping the standard neons or the cardinal tetras or the black neons. They have a great personality. They're easygoing, a nice community fish that do well in that smaller 20-gallon tank. If you want more information on what to keep with these fish, check out the videos in the upper and lower right-hand corners as well as in the description below. Appreciate you being here, and we'll see you in the next one.